पहली राहों में रहा बेजुबान वक्त के साथ मचा देंगे तूफान.
Absolutely love that. That was Izzat by TEX. I definitely got some Gully Boy vibes there, and as a poet, I definitely appreciate lyrics and poetry and rhyme and rap. And TEX actually joins us now. Evening, TEX. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an honor.
So tell us about that track then.
Yeah, so that track is called Izzat, and in Hindi or Urdu, it means respect or honor. And the entire idea of the track, if you listen carefully, is about respecting yourself, understanding yourself. And you'll see a lot of stereotypical things that we hear from society, like, oh, what are you doing? This is not the right standard to do things. And
I definitely heard log kya kahenge, right?
Log kya kahenge, yeah. Yeah, so it's just something that we all hear. And I think the idea here is to sort of detach from that, understand that these are projections from society that may not necessarily, apply to us. And what can we do once we understand ourselves more and rise from the ashes?
So your album's called Ikigai Part 1 Perception. That's really interesting. Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah, so Ikigai is a really beautiful concept in Japanese. It means, it literally translates to a reason for being. And people often use that as finding your purpose. In Sanskrit, we call that dharma. And I've used this here because I feel like there's a lot of things we do in life. We may not necessarily know why we're doing them. And a lot of people are out there trying to find their purpose. And it's part 1 perception because, as you can tell, it's going to be a series of albums. And perception because music gave me a different lens to look at my own life. Instead of thinking about why are things bogging me down, it's what can I learn from the situation? How can I grow through what I'm going through right now? So really giving that perspective, yeah.
So when did the music bug get you?
Oh, that's I guess when I was 12 or 13 years old. I was back in Delhi at the time. I had just been given this iPod Shuffle. It's like a 2-3 centimeter long device, like really old stuff.
I remember.
Yeah, and you would just load tracks onto it and play it on shuffle. And all I was listening to back then was Eminem. It felt like he had been through so much, and when he was sharing his own story, I felt like, wow, he's been through so much, and if he got out of it and he got out of it stronger, then so can I. And that he had that impact on me, and he didn't even know I existed. And so when I started growing up a little bit more, I was like, I want to have that kind of impact on other people, whether it be in the form of music or podcasts or whatever else I do in life. So that's when it all started for me.
So I know as artists, we can go through phases or projects. So a lot of artists, like I'm a poet as well. So initially finding yourself or trying to find your voice, that might be an initial project. But finding your purpose is a massive project, right? So would you say that theme is permeating all of your work? And is that going to be part of a longer, bigger project, or would you say that you write about lots of different other things?
Yeah, I try and write about a lot of different things. So currently this album is focused on me. It's more like I'm sharing my story, but I think at a deeper level, what I'm trying to do is use myself as an instrument to share concepts and ideas and inspire people to look at their own lives in a more deep, meaningful way. And then after this, so the next part is probably going to be Ikigai Part 2, Deception or Inception, where I talk about problems out in there in the world. So I've already released a track from that called Rewind. That was actually one of the first tracks I put up on Spotify. And Rewind is all about the problems we have in the world. And instead of looking at it as like, oh, everything's terrible, what I'm trying to say there is, how can we look at what's happening right now? What can we do as individuals to make sure we change and we change as part of something bigger? So I think at the end of the day, the message I'm trying to give out is much bigger than just myself.
I can tell that you're a very deep thinker, a lot of existential questions there. Where does that come from?
The experience, literally, yeah. And that's actually one of the reasons why TEX is the artist name. It stands for the experience. Yeah, we all go through so much in life, and those experiences shape us. And if we can get conscious of it, then we can learn ourselves more. Yeah.
What inspires you? I know that you talked about your life experiences, but anywhere else that inspires you? Maybe they are artists as well. I know you mentioned Eminem too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So Eminem is the one that got me into loving rap and lyricism and poetry, as you said. And when I was about 17 and 18, I discovered G-Eazy, Logic, NF, Russ, and then Zayn Malik as well. So Zayn Malik's singing voice really inspires me. So I try and use some of his elements in my songs as well. You'll hear that in Tum Se. But more recently, I've gotten really spiritual. And there's this artist by the name of John V. Harrison. Yeah, you're smiling. So
I know John V. Harrison, yeah.
She's a beautiful artist. Her EP with Willow Smith called Rise really, really got me through a tough time last year. I had the honor of telling her that album really influenced me. And again, when you listen to Tum Se, which is what's going to be playing after this interview, you'll hear John V. Harrison's influences in that song and a bit of Zayn's and Indian classical music as well in it. Yeah.
Amazing. So talk us through your creative process then. I'm really interested to know what that might be like.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the track or the project, right? So if I know there's a certain message I want to give off in the track, and I would have written a few lyrics, I know the kind of mood I want to create, I'll find a producer to create that kind of sound. Sometimes else there's a producer who approaches me and says, hey, Tex, we have this sort of thing. Do you want to hop on it? Yes or no, kind of thing. But I think that's more from a surface level. At a deeper level, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to engage the audience to understand themselves more. I know I'm continuing saying this, but I'm trying to give them a different perspective. And I'm doing this so I'm the kind of person who loves movies and books that are suspenseful. So they have different layers to them. You can just sit back and watch a movie like Harry Potter and enjoy it. But there'll be certain things that happen in the movies where you won't be quite sure as to why they said a certain thing at that certain time to that certain person. 7 movies later, you'll figure out what it sounds. It's kind of this Inception, but also a Easter egg, treasure hunt kind of thing. I love doing that in my own songs. So I like my songs to be a storybook. So when you listen to this album in order from top to bottom, you'll hear a story. So each song in itself is complete. You'll enjoy the song by itself. But when you play them together, you'll hear the iceberg metaphor, which is something a lot deeper, which I'm trying to spread. Yeah.
Incredible. Right. I know that you also have a day job. So how do you manage to to do a day job as well as mix so much music?
Yeah, I think having that day job that you enjoy, that fulfills you, where you learn and you're challenged in a not a toxic environment, I think really helps. So this album actually has been in the works in my mind for 4 years and implementation in 2 years. So while I was at uni, I was working on this album. So in the day I do my job, I'm fulfilled with my job. So when I come back, I'm not exhausted, which means I'm actually inspired to do more and share more. Yeah.
So where can people get a hold of your album?
Yeah, so all the streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Amazon Music. If you're hearing this, then if you just go to bit.ly/TEX Ikigai, so TEXIKIGAI, that's just a short link. You'll find all the different places you can hear the album.
And what about your social media? How can people find you online to follow your journey, to connect with you?
Yeah, sure. Please feel free to connect. I'd love to have a chat. So Instagram is probably the best place for that. You can find me on Instagram by the handle Tex_the experience.
Tex, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Right, that was music artist Tex there. And if you missed that interview, you can listen to it back on BBC Sounds. So if you just find today's programme and fast forward to about 40 minutes in, and you'll find this interview. And here is another track from this album. The album is called Ikigai Part 1 Perception. Tejasva Malhotra, and the track is called Tum Se. Tejasva Malhotra and Tum Se here on BBC Radio Leicester. That is from the album Ikigai Part 1 Perception, and we just spoke to him. If you missed the interview, you can catch it on BBC Sounds. And what a lovely guy he was. So zen, wasn't he? You can totally tell that he's on this journey of self-discovery. Gonna play you some Shreya now.